Welcome to the deep dive. For years, we've treated mental toughness like, well, almost like a soft skill you either had or you didn't.
Mm-hmm. Sort of an abstract idea.
Exactly. But if the global research we've synthesized this week proves anything, it's that those days are really done. Mental toughness, or MT, it's definitively shifted.
Yeah, it's gone from being this vague trait to something you can actually measure, a quantifiable performance indicator.
So today we're undertaking a deep dive into the latest application reports. These are from October 2025. Our mission, really, is to analyze the recent breakthroughs that give us the hard numbers behind MT.
The levers, you could say.
Right, and then see exactly how high-level workplaces, policy organizations, and elite sporting environments are using these frameworks right now.
Well, I think what's essential to understand right from the start is that these sources, they really confirm a fundamental global shift.
Okay.
We're not just reacting anymore, not just dealing with stress or burnout after the fact. The focus is rapidly moving toward proactive mental fitness training.
Building it before you need it.
Precisely. We can now confidently say that mental toughness is a learnable skill set. It's evidence-based, and frankly, it's becoming non-negotiable for success in the 21st century.
And you mentioned evidence-based. Where does that confidence come from?
It's built on really consistent validation. I mean, the tools used to measure MT, they've been tested across incredibly diverse groups.
Like who?
Oh, everyone from elite military forces to, student populations halfway across the globe. And that consistency, that's what tells us that MT development is fundamentally reliable and, importantly, accessible to everyone.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If it's measurable, there has to be a mechanism, right? A model.
Yes, there is.
And the industry standard tool seems to be this 4Cs framework.
Yeah.
It breaks down this pretty complex trait into 4 core pillars.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And it's crucial because if you want to develop MT, you need to know which pillar to push, which lever to pull. The 4 Cs are control, commitment, challenge, and confidence.
Right.
Should we quickly run through them?
Yeah, let's do that. What's control about?
So control, this isn't about controlling everything around you. That's impossible. It's about controlling your own reactions and your sense of direction.
Okay.
And it's measured in 2 ways. Emotional control that's being composed when things go wrong, and life control, which is feeling like you have the agency, the power to steer your own outcomes.
So it's about being measured, maybe composed, not necessarily like emotionless or stoic.
Exactly. Measured is a good word. Then you have commitment. This is your tenacious side. Focused follow through.
Sticking with it.
Right. It covers goal orientation.
Okay.
So setting the target and achievement orientation, which is the drive to actually get there even when the process is, a real grind.
Okay. And challenge. That sounds like embracing difficulty, maybe.
It is, yeah, but specifically in 2 key ways. Risk orientation and learning orientation.
How so?
Well, risk orientation is your willingness to step outside your comfort zone. But crucially, learning orientation is about your willingness to reflect, adapt, and actually learn from mistakes or failures.
So not just taking risks, but learning from them.
Precisely. You start to see the unknown not just as a threat, but maybe as an opportunity for growth.
Makes sense. And the last C?
Confidence. This is often the most visible aspect of MT, the one people notice first. But we look at both confidence in abilities, that kind of self-assuredness in your skill set.
Believing you can do it.
Yeah. And interpersonal confidence, which is more about your ability to, stand your ground, assert yourself effectively in groups without being aggressive.
Okay, the 4 Cs. Control, commitment, challenge, confidence. Now, here's where it got really interesting for me in the reports. The developmental nature.
Ah, yes.
They consistently highlight that MT is a mind-body skill. Which maybe sounds a bit obvious,
Yeah.
but the proof is there.
It is. Targeted physical activity interventions have now been proven, quite clearly, to drive measurable improvements across all 4 of those components.
All 4. Not just, say, commitment.
All 4. It's not just talk therapy, though that has its place.
Yeah.
It's physical action fundamentally changing your mental architecture.
That's powerful. Okay, let's move past the framework itself and get to the hard numbers, the quantitative levers that should guide any development plan.
Right.
What specifically drives mental toughness? What were the biggest aha moments in this new research?
Well, we absolutely have to talk about emotion. There's new research. This was emerging from student athletes in Indonesia, and they isolated the impact of emotion regulation.
Okay.
And the result, well, it's the most powerful single lever we've seen quantified so far. The data shows that emotion regulation contributes a colossal 60.5% to overall mental toughness.
Wow. 60%. This is from election regulation.
60.5%, yeah. R equals 0.778 for those interested in the stats.
That completely reframes the priority list for training, doesn't it? I mean, that's not just a background factor. That sounds like it is the foundation.
It truly is. This finding strongly suggests that if you are building mental fitness, whether that's for a high-stakes job, sports, or just, daily well-being, the targeted reinforcement of emotional control, that factor within the 4C's control pillar probably should be the priority.
Performance consistency starts there.
It seems so. It begins with the ability to manage your emotional state effectively.
And that links directly to how we use our minds.
Yeah.
We also saw some Chinese research. This involved 285 athletes, which looked at mindfulness.
Yes, that was interesting too.
It found that mindfulness practice significantly enhances something called cognitive reappraisal. What exactly is that?
Yeah. So cognitive reappraisal, put simply for the listener, it's the way you consciously choose to interpret or reframe a stressful or negative situation.
Okay, like changing the story you tell yourself about it.
Exactly. So instead of thinking this deadline means I'm going to fail, you actively reappraise it as, okay, this deadline is a chance to prove my efficiency or a chance to focus.
And the numbers back that strategy up.
They do. That research found that mindfulness, combined with existing MT, accounts for 54% of the variance in a person's ability to tolerate distress.
54%. So if you can regulate your feelings, that's the 60.5%, and you can choose how you frame the stressor.
Wow.
You gain massive control.
You really do. But what's fascinating here, and maybe a bit surprising, is how this toughness extends beyond just coping with pressure. It seems to link directly into pure well-being, into happiness.
How so?
Well, researchers at Newcastle University studied 367 students, and they discovered that mental toughness explains 65% of the variance in their overall happiness.
Whoa. Okay, wait. 65% of happiness explained by a performance metric like MT. That's what we're talking about, flourishing, not just surviving stress.
Exactly. Flourishing is the right word. And the most compelling part of that study, for me anyway, was identifying the strongest individual predictor within the 4Cs.
Which one was it?
Confidence in abilities.
Huh. Just that specific confidence.
Yes. It indicates that MT adds unique value that goes beyond just being resilient or having grit, It suggests that a fundamental belief in your own competence, in your ability to do things, is deeply intrinsically linked to genuine, sustained happiness.
That is a revolutionary insight, really. If MT predicts well-being this strongly, it's no wonder world policymakers and corporate finance departments are finally paying serious attention.
Absolutely.
Let's transition then from the academic findings to how these insights are actually reshaping global strategy right now.
Okay. Well, we're seeing a really monumental shift towards treating MT development almost like economic infrastructure. It's that serious.
Infrastructure, how do you mean?
Take the International Labor Organization, the ILO. That's the UN body. They convened historic meetings earlier this month, October 9th and 10th, focusing specifically on psychosocial risks and mental health at work.
Okay.
This represents the highest level international recognition we've seen that managing mental fitness isn't just an HR perk, It's essential to stable global productivity.
And the motivation, presumably, is economic.
Largely, yes, unfortunately, but pragmatically. The UN's own reports highlight that roughly 1 billion people worldwide are living with mental health conditions.
1 billion people?
Yeah. And that generates an estimated $12 billion, that's billion with a B, in annual productivity losses globally.
$12 billion lost.
So when you reframe proactive MT development as risk mitigation against those staggering figures, suddenly it moves right to the top of the executive agenda.
And the return on investment, the ROI, is actually quantifiable now.
It is. We saw data out of Australia, particularly during their October Mental Health Month. Organizations there have really ramped up investment in mental fitness programs.
And the results?
Crystal clear. These organizations are achieving a verifiable $2.30 return for every single dollar invested in these mental health and MT initiatives. That kind of hard ROI data is transforming corporate attitudes globally, not just in Australia.
$2.30 back for every dollar spent. Okay, that explains the corporate interest.
Absolutely. And if we connect this back to high-stakes performance environments, we see groups like the Australian Defence Force, the ADF, systematically applying these
How
principles.
are they doing it?
They reinforce mental toughness by integrating quite challenging physical protocols, but framing them explicitly as MT development. For instance, we see examples cited like Corporal Matthew Gladman.
Okay.
His documented journey in competitive bodybuilding is used not just as an example of physical training, but as a systematic application of achievement orientation and challenge acceptance principles, using deliberate, structured difficulty to build that mental fortitude.
So the physical challenge is the mental training.
In that context, yes. But it isn't just for military personnel or elite pro athletes. Look at grassroots resilience. There's some powerful stories there, too.
Like what?
There's the story of teenager Alyssa Smith. She trained alone in a paddock during lockdowns, battled glandular fever, a dislocated shoulder, was even told she was too small, too young.
A lot of adversity.
A huge amount. But she channeled that into commitment, into that goal orientation factor, and she just debuted for the Hockey One League's Canberra Chill team. Her trajectory is a perfect illustration that challenge is something you meet head-on, and goal orientation is what carries you through the setbacks.
That's a great example. And what I appreciated about the reports, too, is how this framework seems to be expanding beyond just elite performance into genuinely inclusive resilience.
Yes, that's a really important trend.
Tennis Australia, for instance, held its inaugural All Abilities Week, applying MT development principles across various disability streams.
Which is fantastic to see.
And we also saw the Koori Knockout Rugby League Carnival mentioned, an incredible event described as a modern-day corroboree, really showcasing community-led cultural resilience and intergenerational strength all through sport.
And these applications, along with things like the 2025 Virtus World Athletics Championships for athletes with intellectual impairments, they really demonstrate the true universality of the 4 Cs. Meaning these mental toughness frameworks, they're proving beneficial to all populations, regardless of physical or cognitive ability level. It really is a truly human skill set.
Okay, so bringing this wealth of information, all these studies and applications back to the listener. What are the concrete, practical steps people can take based on this global consensus? Let's try to summarize the actionable advice from the reports.
Right. Let's start with organizations. For companies or teams, the advice is becoming highly strategic. First, implement structured, systematic mental fitness programs that run alongside, not separate from, physical wellness initiatives.
Integrate them.
Exactly. Second, use validated assessments like the MTQ+, which measures those 8 factors underlying the 4 Cs, to actually understand your team's profile, especially in high-stress departments. Know your baseline.
Okay.
And third, maybe stop just throwing people into the deep end and hoping they swim. Instead, create graduated challenge programs, things designed to safely and incrementally build that achievement orientation and risk orientation we talked about.
Build the muscle gradually. Makes sense. And for the individual listening right now, what's the advice for them drawn directly from those quantitative breakthroughs?
Yeah, for individuals, it's actually quite specific now.
Okay, number 1.
Based on that huge 60.5% finding for emotion regulation, your first priority probably must be to actively practice emotion regulation strategies. Learn techniques, practice them. This seems to be the foundational skill for consistent performance.
Got it. Emotion regulation first. Second.
Use physical activity. But not just generally for fitness, but deliberately, consciously for its mental toughness benefits.
So,
know that it's a direct lever you can pull for all 4 Cs.
Use exercise as MT training. Okay. And third.
Engage in mindfulness. Specifically, to enhance your cognitive reappraisal abilities, that skill of practicing how you consciously reframe stress or setbacks.
Right. Regulate, move, reframe. Seems clear.
And looking ahead just quickly, 2 trends seem to be accelerating the most based on these reports.
What should we watch?
One is what's being called the research-practice bridge. Basically, the speed at which major findings, like that 60.5% figure, are being translated into actual training curriculums and corporate programs is unprecedented. It's moving fast.
Okay, research is hitting the ground running.
Yeah. And the second is just the massive acceleration of workplace resilience investment. This is being fueled by that clear ROI data, like the $2.30 return from Australia, and also increasingly by policy mandates coming from bodies like the UN.
So more research into practice, more money flowing in.
That's the trajectory. So maybe to synthesize everything we've covered here, from that hard quantification of emotion regulation's impact, all the way to the UN's recognition of psychosocial risk as a global economic challenge.
Yeah. The sources really confirm that mental toughness development is now a global, evidence-based priority, and it's supported equally by solid science and a high-level policy.
Which means, for you listening, you no longer have to treat stress management like this vague battle you might win or lose. You now have targeted, scientifically validated levers: emotion, commitment, confidence, challenge, that, quantitatively drive both success and personal well-being.
Exactly. And maybe here is a final provocative thought for you to explore on your own, building on all this.
Okay, leave us with something to think about.
Well, given that finding that confidence and abilities emerged as the single strongest predictor of happiness, perhaps the next step for personal development isn't just about coping with external stress anymore.
What is it then?
Maybe it's about proactively identifying specific, demonstrable areas of competence skills you can build, projects you can master, knowledge you can gain that you can systematically develop.
Focusing on getting better at things. Right, because by consciously boosting your competence, you're not just managing life. You may actually be designing for profound inner confidence and, as the research suggests, maybe even sustained happiness.
Designing for confidence and happiness by building competence, that is a worthy challenge to take on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.